All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's NBA pre-lock show, where you have myself and the one and only Madness to kind of walk you through how we're treating this slate. It's only a 5-gamer, so we should have time to answer some questions along the way. But Madness, man, how have you been? It's been a while since you've been on.
Doing good. It's damn cold up here in Green Bay, but hey, that's what we got basketball for. We're gonna hunker down and watch some ball.
Yeah, here in North Carolina, we're a little hunkered too. Nowhere like y'all, but we got ice, and that's a big deal for us. I almost shut down everything, but we're alive and well, and we have power. That's all I really care about. It's not losing power. All right, hope y'all are good out there too. Let's jump right into it. Starting off, we have the Magic going up against the Cavs. Lowest total on the slate here. Magic are basically healthy. Franz is out though, and so with Franz out, we've seen this for what feels like most of the season. We see De Silva or Penda start for him, and then guys like Bane and Banchero and Black get a usage rate increase. Suggs is also out, and so that's also a benefit to Black. But those are just two guys who are out all the time, so it doesn't feel any different to me. How are you looking at the Magic tonight?
Yeah, this is probably my least favorite game on the slate. I mean, you hit on it with the total. But I mean, we've seen it feels like Orlando and Cleveland play each other every single year in the playoffs. So I mean, we've seen this before. Suggs being back, you're right, with Orlando. They even got Mo Wagner back. So they're getting healthier. They still without Franz, but outside of I'm just going to meet the field with guys like Paolo, Bane, and Black, and those are really the only three I really have any interest in. I don't mind going over the weight on Paolo just a little bit, just because we know that ceiling is there. He's going to play a ton of minutes. Little volatile this year, given the price tag and kind of what we expect out of him. But like I said, the ceiling is there. We've seen it from him. So really not a lot from the Magic for me. Paolo, Bane, Black, I'm fine meeting the ownership on them.
Yeah. It's weird because the Cavs and Magic are almost the exact same team defensively. They're just slightly above average just across the board, but they're not really a team to avoid. Pace is decent, but just slow. So ultimately, without a ton of interesting injury news to keep it interesting, I have a 10% min on Anthony Black. He's expensive. He's too expensive, really, for his price tag, but as you'll see as we go throughout the slate, there's not really a lot of players who are in great spots. And so I'm taking a lot of shots on these mid-range guys to just try and create some unique builds. So 10% min on Anthony Black just because of the injuries they have and hoping he can do better in this matchup. Going up against the Cavs, I do typically like playing guys who can get hot from the three. So he's a little bit more interesting for me with that reason. And then you mentioned it, Mo Wagner, he's been back for a little bit. Minutes are not great, but he's still a good points per minute guy. And just with his price tag, like I'll mention it throughout the show, there's just not a lot of value I love on this slate. I think we will get some value from that Golden State Warriors game, but I don't trust the Warriors. So once again, not a lot of value I love, but we'll get there. Outside of that, I'm not forcing exposure to anyone else. If they show up when I run the DS, they're going to show up, but they're just not priorities for me. Paolo can have a good game. Bane is someone I wanted to like, but his ownership above 10% felt a little off to me. So ultimately, I just didn't take a shot. I'll continue to refresh this as we go throughout the show, but thus far, none of the Magic players are showing up for me. Other side of this game, I think we just...
Yeah, my DS just went down.
Yeah.
It's going to make it kind of difficult.
I was like, this is just a me thing because, earlier I was talking to Uppers. I was like, I don't see this guy. He's like, yeah, it's because they're out. And I was like, that's embarrassing. Well, hopefully that will come back up before we go too long. But I didn't even say what's up to the chat. Showtime, Thomas, Longwind, Chad Moss. Good to see you. Kevin Wagwan. Dixon, where have you been, man? I feel like I haven't seen you in ages. You said, what in the world happened to the Sixers today? How do you get blown out by Charlotte? Charlotte's on the come up, man. But realistically, the Sixers didn't have Embiid and or Paul George, so it was meant to happen. It was just going to be a win for them today, no matter what. I think the Charlotte was favored too, so yeah. Kevin, you're thinking about things the right way. I like Donovan Mitchell as well. OG said, what's up, Jay and Madness? Icy roads in North Carolina. Rim, we're neighbors. Joe, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Yeah, not too far. Who's our sneaky single entry must play any position? We'll get there. We'll get there. Let's see. Flip to Flop said his has been down for a little bit. All right, we'll get it back up. Dell, good to see you. Yeah, we'll we'll try to make it a good night. All right, let's see if we have this fixed. If not, we can still just talk about these games, and then we'll go back and just make sure these guys are showing up the way I want them to. The nice thing too is I still have exposures, oddly enough, so we can still look at that too. So for the Cavs side of this game, I like it a little bit more than Orlando. For Cleveland, they are still without Darius Garland. That's really the big piece for them. But they also have DeAndre Hunter listed as questionable. Tomlin will really be one of the guys who benefit the most if he gets ruled out. We already found out that Sam Merle is out and Max Strus has been out for a while. Any Cleveland players really standing out for you?
They're very similar to the Magic for me. I think you just target the high upside guys, and for me, that's Donovan Mitchell. Yep. So I'm looking at Mitchell very similar to how I'm looking at Paolo. Not a guy I'm forcing by any means, but the ceiling is going to get me there at least a little bit, maybe slightly over the field, drawing about 12.5% ownership. So I'm good with Donovan Mitchell. The rest of the team, I'm just not getting to. But maybe if DeAndre Hunter gets ruled out, that frees up some guys. You know, you're looking at Dean Wade, maybe Tomlin. Tyson probably gets a few extra minutes, but he's seen big minutes anyway, and that price tag is up. So really just Mitchell for me. Fine if I land on Mobley or Allen. I never get Evan Mobley right, so I'm good just landing with wherever I get to on him. But really just Mitchell for me.
And it hurts. Last year, I felt like Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, those were my guys. Like I hit on them every time. This year, I don't know who they are anymore. And clearly they don't know me because I never get them right. Ultimately, Donovan Mitchell's my favorite stud of the slate. He's going to be a leverage play for me. I have where is it? Cleveland. I have a 25% min on Donovan Mitchell. I plan on keeping that min on him that high, just trying to be a little bit aggressive on this smaller slate. I can't really tell you any reasons I feel great about this spot. It's just that they don't have Garland. He has most of the ball handling duties. He's the high upside guy on this team. And like I keep saying, there aren't too many studs I love on this slate, and he's one of the ones I feel better about where I'm willing to be over the field on him. Outside of that, I do have a 10% min on Dean Wade. Dean Wade just helps lineups, again, just attacking some of those mid-range guys. He has shown some sign of life over the more recent games, but he's very inconsistent and has a very low floor. So not someone I'm telling you have to have in every single lineup, but he's someone I like to have exposure to. And then we mentioned I don't have the best reputation with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I always say this, and it works sometimes, other times it doesn't. Mo Wags and Wendell Carter Jr. are just not defensive bigs I worry about. And so I do have a 10% min on Jared Allen and Evan Mobley just to kind of have some more exposure to those mid-range bigs, because I think most people are either paying up or taking some shots on some of the cheapies. So I'm playing a lot of the Cavs, just trying to get different, but I don't love that game in general. Next up is probably the game of the slate, at least where we have defenses that aren't good. We have the Lakers going up against the Bulls. Lakers, super close spread here, 1.5 points, and the highest total on the slate. This is a game I always want to target. Lakers tonight are looking relatively healthy, but we do have guys like Austin Reeves who've been out for a while. How are you looking at the Lakers?
Yeah, we go from one of the least appealing games on the slate to definitely my favorite play or game on the slate. And I mean, that's all said by the total. Like you said, two just terrible defenses with the Lakers and the Bulls. So I'm going to get plenty of exposure here. And that starts with Luka Doncic, probably the top raw option on the slate. If you can get to him, do it. If you can't get to him, find a way. I mean, the ceiling is great. He's been in great form. So I love Luka here. I like LeBron too quite a bit. It's just the matchup, and his price tag it's come down at least a little bit. He's sub 9K now, so I do like LeBron quite a bit. And then I do like DeAndre Ayton. I've been streaming big men against this Bulls front court all season long, and I don't think that's going to stop here. He's been volatile all season, but it's hard for me to get away from the matchup. So Luka, LeBron, and Ayton, give me all of them.
Man, we are aligned. I am really focusing on those three. LeBron James shows up naturally. He's oddly enough one of the better value plays on this slate. That just speaks once again to the lack of value we have. He shows up in 25% of my lines without doing anything to him specifically. When I just ran the DS Raw earlier, he was showing up in 60+% of my lineups. And that's okay too. I don't feel like he's someone I need to avoid. The Bulls are a really, really bad defensive team. They're a team we attack every single slate. And so I will continue to do that. Luka Doncic, I have a 20% min on. I wanted to just make sure I had exposure to him, but because I don't love the way the lineups look with him, he just wasn't a huge focal point. But I know he's someone I have to have on the slate just to make sure I'm covering my bases. And then like you, I have a 15% min on DeAndre Ayton. He's someone I want to be over the field on. Like I mentioned with the last team, we've taken some shots on the Cavs. I don't love the center position on this slate. And so I like forcing exposure to guys who are a little weird and off the typical path. The nice thing about Ayton is that he has shown we've seen signs of him having 40+ upside. It's just we don't see that very often. Usually we see 19, 20 points, which will not do it for us. But I'm willing to take a shot on him with him being low owned in this high total game. Outside of that, I'm not really getting a lot of other Lakers, and that's okay. This team is pretty focused on just getting their guys the ball, so I don't really feel like we have to get too weird here. Do you think we're missing anybody?
I don't think so. I mean, you can look at LaRavia without Reeves back, but I think he's mostly priced correctly. I think it's those, I'm going to say big three looping in DeAndre Ayton, but that's probably poor verbiage.
Yeah, almost blasphemy, but we get it for the context of the play. All right, next up, other side of this game, we have the Bulls going up against the Lakers. And the Lakers aren't like a bad defense, but they're also not one I try to go out of my way to avoid attacking. For the Bulls, Josh Giddey is back. He's been back for a little bit now. He's coming off the bench, though, so he's playing less minutes than he typically would. Trey Jones is out, which is interesting because that's a bit of a boost to guys like Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, and Giddey too, if you want to include him in that group. So it makes the Bulls more interesting, at least to me. Who's standing up for you?
Yeah, the Giddey stuff is just kind of annoying because it takes away I'll call it value on Kobe White, but I still think Kobe White looks great here. I love the matchup against the Lakers. They haven't played any sort of defense, so give me Kobe White. No problem with his price tag has come up, but it's warranted. He's gotten rid of whatever minutes restriction he had a couple of weeks ago. So I do like Kobe. Vucevic looks pretty good. His price tag, another one that has come down. So I like him. And then I'm getting a shocking amount of Kevin Huerter at the moment. I don't know how I feel about that. I think it'll come down. We did just get Warriors news. So Curry and Draymond are out. So I would expect that to come down, but I mean,
and the DS is back, which is also awesome.
It is back. It's back. So go refresh.
Go refresh
the people at home. But I mean, 4,200 for Kevin Huerter. He is seeing, like you said, without Trey Jones, those minutes should be there. Saw 24 last time out. Had a nice game. He's at least 26 DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4. So I'm all right with the amount of Kevin Huerter I'm getting. So Kobe White, Nikola Vucevic, Kevin Huerter, and I always have a soft spot for Jalen Smith. The dude's just so good from a point per minute perspective that I'm just going to fall on him. Not a real stand per se on him, but I'll probably give him a slight bump.
Yeah, that's pretty much me. This is just a game I want to target and have as much exposure to as possible. It's just kind of like the quick summary. Outside of that, Kobe White is just someone I want to make a priority. Once again, he fits that mid-range price tag, which I like. There is always risk to a guy like Kobe White, but he's still someone I want to make sure I'm prioritizing. Vucevic, I usually like playing in super soft matchups, and Ayton's not like the most difficult, not going up against like a Wemby or a Duren or someone like that, but he has played surprisingly well this season from a defensive standpoint. That's why the Lakers are just average, not the worst. But again, with some inconsistency at the center position, he's just someone I want to be over the field on. So I have a 25% min there. I'm with you with Jalen Smith. He's going to be borderline a leverage play for me tonight. I have a 20% min on him. Just like you said, good points per minute guy. Wish the minutes were a little bit higher, but that's why he's as cheap as he is, and that's why he has a relatively low ownership on this slate. So there's risk here, but I still like playing him because the Bulls have just been playing big lately. They've been having that larger rotation, and so the minutes have stabilized a bit more for him recently. And then Buzelis, last guy. This is just a dart throw, not someone I feel great about, but he does have some ceiling. It's just pretty scattered. And on a smaller slate, that's the kind of guy I'm willing to take a shot on. Kevin Huerter is someone I'm never willing to prioritize. And I didn't put a min on him or anything. He's just showing up in 37% of my lineups. And as long as I'm contemplating putting a 30% cap on him, but I don't think that's necessary just because, like I said, I just don't love all of the value options here. And he's not even that cheap, but if he helps makes lineups work, I'm not going to over tinker. I'm just double checking how much I hate him tonight to see if I think it makes sense. Let's see. We have Herder. I am going to cap him at about 30%. I honestly wouldn't hate 20. And capping is just putting a number in the exposure maximum category to make sure they don't show up in more than 30% of lineups. Flip to Flop said, make sure you thank Texan for that quick fix. I don't know. Is that like a Texan or uppers thing? I feel like it's an uppers thing.
I don't know. I'll thank Texan over upper sled. I'm just giving you shit uppers.
Tex always deserves the same. John said, I wouldn't go too crazy on Ayton. He is trash. This guy is AD 2.0 without the defensive upside. Honestly, calling him AD 2.0 is giving him too much credit to me. But yeah,
we get it. We get it. We don't feel good about it.
Yeah, it's like 15% man won't kill me either way. Yeah, Herder definitely hurt us tonight. Thanks, Kinu. Appreciate that. Thank God that Warriors news came out. Let's look at this Portland-Boston game because that's still the news we're waiting on is Deni Avdija. Deni Avdija, he's been a little in and out here recently because he's been battling some injuries. Today, he is questionable. We know what happens at this point. Sharp sees a really big boost. You would expect Grant to be a bit more involved, but really usage rates everywhere go up if Deni Avdija gets ruled out. We don't know what we don't know yet, though. We know this matchup against Boston's tough. So how are you seeing it?
Yeah, it's tough to analyze without the Deni news, assuming he plays. I mean, it's all we really can do right now. It's really just Donovan Clingan for me, and it's not anything I'm going too crazy on. I do like the matchup against Boston's front court.
Yeah.
It doesn't scare me. Keita doesn't scare me. They're without Luka Garza, so a little less size. They went out of their way and started Amari Williams last game for whatever reason that was about. But Clingan looks good. I'm good with him. The rest of the team is pretty much, I won't say stay away, but nobody I'm prioritizing. Now, if Denny's out, like that completely changes this team. I mean, he's the biggest usage guy on the team. Shaedon Sharpe would look good. I mean, even Toumani Camara, Jamari Grant, Caleb Love, those guys would look good, even though their price tags are up. So watch out for the Deni news because it's going to change how we look at this game.
Yeah, it impacts things pretty dramatically. I am still taking some shots on some of the guys with low ownership, mostly just because they're relatively low owned. And someone's going to have to score here. We saw Deni Avdija. He only played 17, 18 minutes last time out because he was battling that injury. I don't think he'll see full run, even if he does play, but I've been wrong about that before. Usually I play him when he's questionable, but in a more difficult matchup, I'm leaning towards not doing that. Clingan will be a leverage play for me tonight, 10% min there. Boston's defense has been good, even against bigs, but I still think it's still a weakness of theirs. If someone can take advantage of it, Klingan's been on a hot streak, so love being over the field on him. Guys like Sharp and Drew Holiday will be much better plays if Deni Avdija was out, but I have a 5% min on both. Just trying to get my lineups a little bit different. No one's playing them. We've seen Shaedon Sharpe have big games even when Deni Avdija plays, so he's better if he was out, but even if he plays at 7,400, just another mid-range guy to have in the mix. You can shoot threes on good defense, and so this is a spot I like a little bit more at super low ownership. Drew Holiday with a bit of a revenge narrative here. We haven't seen him go up against Boston yet in Boston. Usually that's not a great thing for the revenge narrative for guys returning into Boston. Tough crowd there, but at 6K, his minutes should start trending up a little bit. We've already started to see it a little, and so I'm just taking a shot on that potentially happening. But
He's been good too.
He's been solid. It's just the minutes haven't been there.
Yeah.
So he's been back for like roughly a week and a half, 2 weeks. If we see 25 minutes here, it wouldn't shock me if he ends in the nuts. So just a shot on a 5-game slate. Next up, we have Boston, one of the best offensive and defensive teams in the league. For Boston, we have, like you mentioned, Luke Garza out, which is a boost to their bigs in theory. But like you also mentioned, last time they just played small. And so Amari Williams didn't really see a lot of time. And Garza didn't see a lot of time either when Keita was out last time. With Garza out now, I think if anything, it just stabilizes Keita's minutes. I'm not really trying to play more Boston bigs here. How are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I don't understand why they started Amari Williams and yanked him after 10 minutes. Made no sense. But yeah, I do think Garza being out at least solidifies Keita, and he's probably going to look like the best, I'll call it value play on Boston. They're going to need a size against Klingon. I get why they did it against Chicago, faster paced team, but it didn't work. They lost to the Bulls. So take that for what it's worth. I think Keita does look good, so I'm good with him. Mid-range, we kind of know what we're getting with him at this point, but the other guy I do like quite a bit is Jaylen Brown. As long as this guy's under 10K, I'm just going to keep targeting him. He's just been unreal. He has at least 51 DraftKings points in 5 straight games. Matchup isn't the greatest. Portland's sneaky good on the wing, so it's not the best, but as long as he's under 10K, I'm going to have interest in Jaylen Brown. And then I kind of feel like this is how I am on most slates, but just matching the field on Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. Price tags have come down slightly, but I'm good with landing. It's a tough backcourt matchup. I mean, we've seen Drew Holiday play defense before, so really just matching the field on Keita, and then I'll be slightly overweight on Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, it's weird because in theory, this is literally a pace up spot. The Portland Trailblazers, they play like league average defense, but they play at a pretty fast pace. Boston, they play at a dirt slow pace, and usually when they go up when a slow team goes up a team that plays faster, you expect there to be more points. But Boston's the better team, and so they'll be able to control the pace a bit better. So it's a spot I like, but not a spot I love. Jaylen Brown should show up for most of you naturally without putting a min on him. I did still put a min on him because I put mins on so many other players. I just want to make sure he continued to show up. So 25% min on Jaylen Brown. He's someone I want to be over the field on. He shows up in about 33% of my lineups, though. So close to double the field, not quite. Outside of that, I'm with you here. Derek White, Peyton Pritchard are rarely guys I try to make a priority or guys I want to be like significantly over the field on, unless there's like a huge discrepancy there. And here, Derek White's getting a lot of the ownership, so I just put a 20% min on him. He's also more expensive. He's also more consistent, so it all makes sense. But I'm just going to match the field with a 20% min. And then Peyton Pritchard, I want to be over the field on just because that's where there's the discrepancy. And it wouldn't shock me if he's able to have a really strong game here too with the increase in pace. So I have leverage on Pritchard, slightly under the field on White, but have plenty of exposure to both. And then Anthony Simons is someone that I wanted to make sure I was over the field on. He's inconsistent as all hell, but he's been more consistent here lately. So I have a 15% min on him. Just another guy I want to be over the field on, pretty much. Anyone else? Do you do anything with Keita?
I'm fine with Keita. I'm not going to bump him or do anything with him, but I'm good landing on him. Center's not the greatest position today, so I'm good with him. But we did just get no Denny, so that helps going into lock.
That does help. Well, those mins I had are going to be a lot less sneaky now, but okay. It's okay. Keita's showing up a ton for me. He's in 56% of my lineups right now. He's my highest owned center. It's just because he's cheap, and Portland, they don't have the best front court. So I'm not overly concerned about having that much exposure to Kata, but I wouldn't be mad if he showed up a little bit less. Let me see. Yeah, I'm not gonna cap him, but it's a little scary to have that much. Now we hit some more gross games here. We have the Memphis Grizzlies going up against the Houston Rockets. Memphis is injured per usual. Huge spread here and a low total game environment, which basically spells low ownership, which is nice, but this is a tough matchup. John Morant is out for the Grizzlies. We got the random news that Jock Landale is out too, so something personal there. And then the thing that matters here is Santi Aldama. He's questionable. With Jock Landale out, and if Aldama ends up missing this game, they're going to have almost no bigs. I don't know what they're going to do there. We can talk about that a little bit, but Aldama's questionable a lot. I feel like it's more likely he plays than sits. So that's just kind of what he does. How are you treating the Grizzlies?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I think Aldama plays, but who knows? It's the NBA at this point. But, I mean, if he does miss, I would guess they slide Jaren Jackson over and start him at the 5.
Yeah.
And kind of go smaller. So we'd see more GG Jackson, Vince Williams. They just have a really small team once you get outside of those bigs. So they would probably just go small and try to beat Houston down the court. It is a tough matchup with Houston, which makes me struggle to get to this team. I do like targeting Jaren Jackson anytime he's without John Morant. I know the matchup stinks, but if he does slide over and play the 5, he's going to look pretty damn good at 7,600. And we've seen a ceiling out of him. He's not drawn any ownership, so he's going to be a nice leverage guy. The bad thing there is there's a reason he's not drawing any ownership.
There is a good reason.
So take that for what it's worth. But I'll be a little bit over the field on Jaren Jackson.
Yeah.
Rest of this team, I just don't see it.
The interesting thing for me is the Rockets defense, at least in the paint, gets a little bit worse when Steven Adams isn't playing. Steven Adams has been out for a little bit now. And so that's why I'm more willing to take some shots here on some of these Memphis guys, even though I don't love them. Name of the game for this slate, though. I have a 10% min on Jaren Jackson Jr. He's going to be a leverage play for me tonight. Really going to try to attack the paint here with him. But we know he's also inconsistent as all hell, so can only get so excited about that. Santi Aldama, I have a 10% min on. He's someone I want to be double the field on. Saying I want to be that is probably the wrong way to look at it. It's just, I like the spot, the price tag, and the low ownership. So it's a spot I feel like I can get good leverage on. Is probably the better way to word that. GG Jackson, John Conchar are two guys I think suck, but they are cheap. And especially if Aldama gets ruled out, I think they could definitely benefit a lot too. So just guys I want to have in the mix on a team that's missing a lot of players. And then last but not least is probably not my favorite leverage play, but one I like a lot is Cam Spencer. He's one of those guys that sees a big boost with John Morant out. He's been way more involved. The tough part and scary part is that the Rockets defense is so good. I think Cedric Howard probably sees Iman Thompson tonight. So it makes me feel a little bit better about playing Cam Spencer at low ownership. But yeah, I'll have a 10% min on Cam Spencer, just trying to force more exposure to these low-owned guys on this slate. Did you think about Cedric Howard at all, or what were your thoughts?
My head went to Iman Thompson too. Yeah. He's like one of the guys, and him and his brother are one of the only guys in the league that makes me rethink a potential 1v1 matchup. They're nasty defensively. So if he draws that, obviously a rookie, so good luck. But
yeah,
there's enough switching in the NBA where he could get away from him. But
exactly.
Without John, we've seen him have a nice ceiling, and he's a bucket getter when he's out there. But I think we have better options on this slate.
Yeah. Dyson Daniels is maybe one of the other guys that I'll sometimes avoid. And the only reason why he stands out so much is because I used to target the Hawks so heavily with guards that now I had to get out of that practice because Trey's not there anymore. So yeah, again, this is just a spot I don't love, but I like the low ownership, so I'm going to attack it. Next up, Rockets side of this game, softer matchup, obviously, but they are a much healthier team and priced for it. Steven Adams has been out for a bit. We've seen Clint Capella be a little bit more involved, but it doesn't really change too much here from a DFS perspective. Do you like Houston as much as I do? Because I have a lot.
I
Scarily a
like
lot.
so that yes. I like Alperen Şengün more than the field by quite a bit. I just think he's too cheap. The matchup is great. Like we've mentioned, it's a short-handed Memphis front court, and he's shown a huge ceiling. So I like Şengün quite a bit at nearly 9K. He's a guy I'm going to be quite over the field on. I do think that Reed Shepherd ownership drops by a lot with the Warriors news. I just don't think we need him anymore. Let me look at what he's been fine, but the minutes are all over the place, which makes me hesitant on him, especially with the locked in minutes. Well, I say locked in as if I'm not talking about a Steve Kerr led Warriors.
Yeah, true.
So regardless, I think Shepherd's ownership comes down. Kevin Durant, I'm fine with him. He does project pretty well. I don't love targeting Kevin Durant in this day and age. But I do think Jabari Smith is worth a look. Him and Tari Eason, they can help fill the void of that Steven Adams. This team likes to run big with Adams and Şengün. So I think Eason and Smith look pretty good. GPP plays, nothing I'm going to go crazy on, but I like Şengün quite a bit here.
Yeah, and just kind of looking across the industry, it does look like Reed Shepherd's ownership will fall down to like 9-10%. And it is because of that Warriors news. It's going to make a guy like Reed Shepherd just an okay play, not someone that you needed as much of before that information. Also, some guys from Portland might start to stand out a little bit more too. So I had him in on him. I'm going to take it off. Şengün's a leverage play for me here. The Grizzlies just have been struggling against bigs ever since they lost Edie and probably a ton of other players too. So he's someone I want to make sure I make a priority here. And then Jabari Smith, I have a 20% min on, just another mid-range guy that has upside who I want some exposure to, sees consistent minutes, something we can't say about a lot of guys on this slate. And then KD is just a fine stud for me on this slate. He's been better here recently from like a DFS perspective, so that's nice. Matchup isn't too scary, so 15% min there, just matching the field, nothing too wild. And then 15% min on Eason as well, just with the minute stabilizing a bit more, just someone I wanted some exposure to. I'm going to lower the 15 down to 10. I won't have quite as much. And 8,700, I don't know. It feels a little cheap for KD after how he's been playing here recently. So I will increase my exposure to him to about 20% and keep and I'll keep the rest of what I have. I think Jabari feels a little chasey, but I'm basically just close to field weight exposure, so I'll keep it. Anything else you think we should add? You touched on Reed. Do you think about Amin Thompson at all?
Oh yeah, I didn't touch on Amin. Yeah, I like Amin. Good price tag. I think he's probably priced right, but we know what he's gonna play 40 minutes, assuming this game stays close. I guess that's a big assumption in this spot, but 40 minutes last time out, 42, 39, 40, 36, 40, 42. So he's gonna play huge minutes. He's out there for his defense, but he does enough with the ancillary stats and his scoring to be able to get there. So I think the price tag is right. It has come down slightly to 8,200. So I don't mind going overweight on Amin Thompson.
Yeah, I don't really take shots on Amin unless he shows up by himself. So I get it. He has been good, and he does have 40-point upside, which is nice, but not someone I'll force too much exposure to. But yeah. Next game is the weird one. We got the news pretty late that Curry and Draymond were going to be questionable. And then we found out just recently that they are now both out. Y'all know I hate the Warriors. Even when they're healthy, when they're injured, I feel like it's just them trying to rage bait me a little bit and get me to buy into stuff and then completely switch it up. So this is a spot where I'm not going to tinker too much. But before we got the news, there are some players that I already liked having exposure to. With Curry out, we've seen Podziemski get a lot of the time, and then the starters usually get a usage bump. But who the hell knows who the starters are here at this point? There's no Jimmy Butler, there's no Curry, there's no Draymond. And then when Draymond is out, Santos has really been the guy who's benefited the most, and especially with Kuminga out too. So there's also other players like the Anthony Melton isn't playing, so that makes the guard spot a little bit clearer. This is a night Al Horford isn't playing, and so that makes guys like Post and Santos and Tracy Jackson Davis all the more viable. And then we've seen guys like Buddy Hield and Moses Moody. The list goes on. This entire team has all had moments this season already. So how do you go about trying to make sense of all this, man?
Yeah, Steve Kerr makes it tough. That is for sure. But it's going to be impossible to get away from this team tonight. So
yep.
I'm kind of surprised he's getting as much ownership as he is. But the guy that comes to my head as a potential leverage, but he's still getting 27% ownership is Trace Jackson Davis. Yeah. I like him quite a bit here. We haven't seen him play a ton as of late, but given the matchup and given how big the Wolves are, I could see him getting a real role here. And he is a great per minute guy at Stone Min 3K. I'm going to give him quite a bump. Outside of Quentin Post, who else are they going to run at the 5? And they could run those two together. It's not like Gui Santos is Gui guy.
I don't know. Guy, gay. I don't know.
He's not. He's like 6'7". I mean, the Wolves are going to be running out Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, and then by the way, we have Naz Reid to throw at you off the bench. I like Trace Jackson Davis quite a bit here. Regardless of if he starts or not, I don't expect him to start. If he does, even better. I kind of wish they don't start him because he's going to just become a free square if he starts. But yeah, I mean, this whole team is going to look great right now. Getting the most Trace Jackson Davis. Actually, I just ran a new run, so it's him, Brandon Podziemski, Pat Spencer, Santos, Post. I mean, name a guy on the Warriors, you're going to get exposure. I think the one guy we can get away from is Gary Payton. I've never been a big Gary Payton guy unless you're
what
playing.
What did Gary do to you?
So, whoever starts is going to look great. If it is Gary Payton, which I don't expect it to be, I don't need to go there. But I think we, or at least myself, I'm going to take a shot on going really overweight on Jackson Davis.
Yeah, it's funny. For me, Tracy Jackson Davis wasn't showing up, and so I put a 50% min on him just to make sure I'm over the field. And I'm close to just doing a 60% min and just making him a core play. Because you're right, they just don't have a lot of bigs. There's no Kuminga, there's no Draymond, there's no Al Horford. The list goes on. They're just missing a ton of guys, and he's too cheap for this spot and position. So either way, he's just someone I want to prioritize. Is there a such thing as too many Warriors at this point in your lineups? Because the hard part to me isn't, am I playing the Warriors? It's just, first, which ones am I trying to prioritize? And then how many is too many?
I've never been a huge fan of like maxing out the 6 that you're allowed on DraftKings. Yeah. I'll probably max 5. If you want to run 6, I'm good with it. The issue is they're going to get blown out in this game. So if you, at least they should. I mean, we've seen teams in a similar spot not get blown out. I'm fine with 6, but I'll probably max 5.
Yeah. The DS kind of typically doesn't go over 5. You don't really have to set a rule for it. Like I didn't, and I haven't come across any lineups with more than 5. So there's that, and most of them have 4. And so as long as I'm getting like a nice variation, that's really what I'm trying to target here. And I'm trying to figure out which Warrior would be worth locking, because usually when we have value like this, I like to just lock the guy I like the most in. but I don't think I can here. I like Pat Spencer. I like Will Richard. Those are just guys I want to just make sure I have exposure to, but there's not really anyone I feel like is a must lock. I think Pat Spencer will probably see the most ownership at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because he typically starts here. Does he start in the spot or no?
My guess is they go Pajemski, Richard, Moody, Santos, post.
Okay. So Spencer would come off the bench. I wonder
Unless,
why his
unless they want to
ownership's so
go with
high. Is it
Spencer
just his
instead
price
of.
tag?
Yeah. I mean, 3.2K. And Kerr loves him. So he's going to play. That's the thing with him at 3.2K. He's going to look good.
Yeah. So far, Jackson Davis is showing up in 60 plus because we have that min. Pazemski showing up in 47% of my lineups. I think most people are going to be like, Pazemski, he's the guy I want. And so therefore, in situations like this, that's the guy I'm not going to prioritize, but he still shows up a good bit. Santos is showing up in 46% of these lineups. He's someone I like being over the field on, so I like that he's showing up that much. Post is showing up in 45%, and I think that's pretty appropriate for this spot. Pat Spencer, I am going to force more exposure to, or at least try. I'm going to put a 60% min on him as well with that price tag. I feel like he's similar to a Jackson Davis type of play. Moses Moody, I'm always pretty meh on. He's showing up in about 25% of lineups, which is right around field weight exposure. That feels appropriate enough for me. Gary Payton II. I was wondering what he did to you. I haven't looked at his most recent games. I know he's kind of like a Pat Spencer type, and just in the sense of how many minutes he gets, it's not always the most consistent. But with Curry out and Draymond out, it wouldn't shock me if Kerr wants a guy like Peyton to play a bit more to try and stabilize things on defense. So I like being over the field here. I'll put a 20% min on him just to kind of make sure he shows up. And outside of that, Will Richard is someone I'm going to need more exposure to. I'm the first to admit when I don't know how a situation will play out. I do not know how it will play out. And so, therefore, I want a lot of exposure to these cheap Warriors, and I just want a good mix of them. And that's worked out before, so I'm just going to do it again. And then Buddy Hield is someone that we've seen do well when they have a lot of injuries, but kind of like Kuminga is usually in a blowout scenario. He's someone that I think is interesting. I'll try and just match the field on him with like a 20% min, but he's probably my least favorite Warrior out of the group.
I think that makes sense on Buddy. And I think he benefits from having Curry on the court. Take some of that attention off him at the 3-point line.
Yeah, he's a shooter who has been hit or miss from that shooting description for a while. And then just to kind of talk about it too, the Timberwolves are a really good defense. They're elite. And if these guys, really any of them, were any more expensive than they are currently, I would have to actually think about playing them, but they're all so cheap that I'm just like, yeah, okay, kind of makes sense. Anything else you want to add here?
No, just hopefully Kerr doesn't polish off the names of LJ Cry or Malevi Leon's. Just mess with us.
Don't put that on me. I don't need some random showing up when we already have a ton of randoms that I'm already playing. Pazemski did fall a bit in this run, and Post did too. I like Post enough where I'll put a 45 min on him. I kind of mentioned it. I don't care too much about pods, but I'll put like a 40% min. I think 45 could work too, but I'm just going to do 40 just to kind of make sure I'm close to field weight so I'm not completely screwed if he goes off tonight. He's still cheap.
That's the one thing when we get into these scenarios, and I think we've touched on it before, but like he's probably the first guy off the court if they get into a blowout scenario. Like he's an actual part of their rotation. Him and like a guy like Moses Moody. Like Kerr's just not going to risk an injury or anything like that if this does get out of hand. So I can see going underweight on him.
Sweet. And then let me just double check. Santos is still showing up, and of course he's not. So Santos, I will do a 30% min on just to try to match field weight exposure there. And I think that's pretty much everybody. The only guy I don't have a min on is Moses Moody. Let's just make sure he's showing up a little bit too. Of course, he completely disappeared. So I'll just do like a 25% min there to make him show up a bit more. I think the DS is actually running better with these mins just because it was searching for value. And it's like, okay, you're willing to go heavy on them? We'll do it. Next up, the other side of this game. All stats that you see on paper now no longer matter because who is this Warriors team at this point? I don't know. But the nice thing for Minnesota is that this is a soft matchup and they are healthy. And that's why everyone's worried about a blowout here. Do you like forcing exposure to these Timberwolves, or like what's your approach here?
I might just go even, let the DS do what it's supposed to do. Part of me wants to say, yeah, you probably want some Timberwolves and a run back. If the Warriors do keep it close, you're going to want some Timberwolves. The issue is if they do get into that blowout script, we're going to see these guys yanked pretty quick. So, but like you said, the matchup is great. So if it is a blowout, I'd rather have these guys on the winning end of the blowout because they're going to be putting up the points. So Rudy Gobert, he should dominate Quentin Post and Trace Jackson Davis. Ant should do whatever he wants at a nice price tag, 9,300. We've seen the ceiling out of him multiple times this season. And then kind of like I mentioned on the other side of it, Naz Reid and Julius Randle, they just don't have the bodies to be able to handle him or them. So I think Randle and Reed look pretty good here. I don't love the price tag on Randle. 8,500 seems a little bit steep, especially given the other options that we have. And I probably won't land in that range all that often with the value we do have. Luka probably just becomes maybe not. I'm looking more into the Luka piece, but he just becomes that much easier to get to. So I do like Gobert and Edwards. Reed and Randle set up in a good spot. Just don't love the price tags on them. And then from there, it's a no-go for me.
Yeah. It's so weird how different a slate looks as you get news. Like there are some guys that I just don't feel like are viable or just aren't as necessary anymore. Like I took a min off of Dante DiVincenzo, and then I lowered some of these mins. Ultimately, Rudy Gobert is still someone I want to be over the field on. I have a 30% min on him. I think it will be closer to a leverage play than a matching the field play by the end of this slate, but we'll see. The Warriors have already, their weak spot defensively has been against bigs if you want to target a team against them, which is something I've typically avoided. But without Draymond of all these injuries, the matchup's even better. And Rudy Gobert is the kind of player I like to play in soft matchups as long as he's a little bit more aggressive. And foul trouble shouldn't be too much of an issue for him in this spot either. So someone I want to be over the field on. Anthony Edwards, with Draymond out and Curry out, the matchup is a bit softer than it looks on paper. So he wasn't my favorite stud at the start of this slate, but I'm okay being closer to field weight exposure now. So I'll put a 25% min on him there. Maybe I'll increase it to, no, I'll keep it at 25 because like you said, the blowout risk is still high, very heavy here, 10-point spread. So I'll just match the field and call it a day there. And then Julius Randle, a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier for me to try and get over the field on a guy like him. And then Naz Reid, I just have a 10% min on, so nothing too wild there. Weird, interesting slate. Anything you want to kind of say to wrap things up here?
No. Hopefully Kerr doesn't screw us.
I feel like he can't hurt us any more than he already has, right? Like you can't be hurt. You can't be surprised. For me, since we're just kind of playing a little bit of everybody here, can't get screwed of a rotation. If anything, it's just going to be some random who just plays a ton of minutes that we weren't expecting. And at least he'll be low owned and he can't really hurt me. So that's true. That's how I'm looking at it. But just to kind of wrap things up, Luka Doncic, I have a lot more of him now. He's showing up in 44% of lineups, and that's because of all the value we have. And then outside of that, we have Pods and Post and Spencer and Santos showing up as core plays for me tonight. So that's going to be it, guys. I wish you all luck. I know we went a little long, but we'll be back tomorrow. Peace out. Bye.